Deep in the rainforests of Central and South America, on a branch dripping from rain, an insect the size of a small bird is slowly climbing a tree trunk. It is a male Hercules beetle, Dynastes Hercules, and at nearly 7 inches from the tip of its curved thoracic horn to the back of its armored wings, he is one of the largest insects on Earth. The Hercules beetle is a scarab in the subfamily Dynastinae, or rhinoceros beetles. It is the flagship species of a genus famous for exaggerated horns and extreme size. For centuries, it has been an icon of natural beauty and wonder. But as we will see, this beetle has more secrets that have only recently been revealed. Size is the first thing anyone notices. Excluding the horn, the adult's body is usually between 5 and 9 centimeters long. Including the great curved horn, a male can reach a length of 17 centimeters, roughly the length of a dollar bill. Females are considerably smaller and hornless. They are also heavier bodied in proportion to their length, built more like tanks. A major male has 2 horns, a long upper horn projecting from the thorax, often with small teeth, and a shorter, forward curving horn jutting from the head. Together, they form a pincer. Females are more practical. Hornless with black and brown elytra, they are easily mistakable as a different species. The male's horns are not for show. During the rainy season, males compete for access to feeding sites and for the females who gather there. When 2 males meet on a branch, they size each other up, lower their heads, and engage. The goal of the fight is to slip the opponent into the pincer, lift him off the branch, and either toss him aside or hold him pinned in midair until he submits. Not all males look alike, though. Horn size is variable, far more variable than leg length, wing length, or even overall body size. A male raised on poor food or stressed during development, or maybe unlucky enough to carry a heavy parasite load, will emerge as a minor male, with stubby horns. A male raised under ideal conditions becomes a major male, the iconic picture of health. This is a case of condition-dependent sexual ornamentation, and the Hercules beetle is one of the most dramatic cases of it in the insect world. The male elytra change color depending on the humidity of the air. In dry conditions, they are green or yellow. In high humidity, the elytra darken towards black. The outer layer of the elytra is porous, with tiny air-filled chambers. Under dry conditions, those chambers scatter light in a way that produces the pale color. When the water vapor seeps into the pores and replaces the air, the optical properties of the layer shift, the scattering changes, and the surface looks dark. The benefit is that dry daytime conditions result in paler beetles against pale bark, while humid night conditions result in black beetles. Flight in a beetle this heavy is a serious undertaking. Takeoffs are clumsy and landings tend to crash. It is hard to imagine this creature evading a predator by flight, as the sound of the flight alone would make it easy to track. The Hercules beetle's range stretches from southern Mexico down through the northern half of South America, with outlying populations on several Caribbean islands. Populations occur in both lowland and mountainous rainforests, and the species seems to favor well-preserved, relatively undisturbed forest where large dead trees are plentiful. Females lay eggs in rotting wood or damp leaf litter. Each female can deposit up to 100 eggs over the course of the breeding season. After roughly a month of incubation, the eggs hatch into grubs, and the beetles begin their longest phase of life. Hercules beetle larvae eat rotting wood. They burrow through decomposing logs, chewing tunnels and consuming the soft, fungus-riddled fibers inside. The larval stage lasts 1 to 2 years, passing through 3 instars. By the time a larva is preparing to pupate, it can weigh over 100 grams. When a mature larva is ready, it hollows out a cell in the wood and transforms into a pupa. This stage will last 2 or 3 months. Finally, the adult emerges, soft and pale, and spends several hours hardening its new exoskeleton. From this point, the beetle will live only a few months. Nearly its entire existence has already happened. Adult Hercules beetles are fruit eaters. In the wild, they visit fallen mangoes, guavas, and other ripe and rotting fruits, feeding on the soft flesh of their brush-like mouthparts. In captivity, they are more generalist, accepting apples, pears, peaches, and bananas. All of this, the size, the horns, the color change, the combat, the decomposer lifestyle, adds up to a creature of unusual ecological and scientific interest. But it also sets the stage for one of the strangest twists in the beetle's modern history, the Hercules beetle's identity crisis. The genus Dynastes was long thought to contain a handful of species distributed across the Americas, about 8 across 2 continents. Within Dynastes Hercules, biologists had named a number of geographic subspecies: Caribbean populations, Amazon basin populations, coastal populations, etc. The names were based mostly on subtle differences in horn shape, color, and total size. This subspecies scheme was not very stable. Museums were full of specimens from poorly documented locations, characteristics were variable, and nobody had done any analysis that combined morphology, genetics, ecology, and geography into a coherent study. Finally, an evolutionary biologist named Zhenpan Huang gathered specimens from across the species range, sequenced their DNA, measured their morphological features, identified all the ecological niches, and ran the whole thing through a statistical framework to evaluate how many distinct lineages were actually present. The results, published in 2016 and 2017, showed that the Hercules beetle complex contained 15 different species organized into 2 major groups. 10 of those species were previously considered subspecies of Dynastes Hercules. Dynastes Hercules, in its strictest sense, was restricted to the beetles of just 2 Caribbean islands, Guadeloupe and Dominica. These populations are the direct descendants of the specimens Linnaeus originally described in 1758, and under the rules of zoological nomenclature, the name stays with them. Every other population, from Mexico to Bolivia, now carries a different name. If Huang's revision holds up, then the true Hercules beetle of the scientific literature is actually an island endemic found only in 2 small places, both of which have seen significant habitat loss and agricultural development. The giant beetles featured in most nature documentaries, which are usually filmed in mainland Ecuador, Peru, or Colombia, are not really Dynastes Hercules. They are one of their close cousins. Conservation-wise, Dynastes Hercules and its many cousins are not currently listed as endangered, but their status is hard to evaluate. The beetles are cryptic, their larvae hide inside wood, and the adults are only active at night. Beyond science, the Hercules beetle has had a significant cultural footprint, most famously in Japan. Rhinoceros beetles are beloved pets, featured in anime, collectors clubs, and specialty shops selling live beetles, larvae, and the equipment to raise them. Large specimens of tropical Dynastes can command high prices, selling for hundreds of dollars. The trade of beetles exists in the US as well, but at a much, much smaller scale. The pet trade has been a mixed blessing for the species. On the one hand, hobbyists have contributed real knowledge about development, nutrition, breeding behavior, and the environmental conditions needed to produce major males. On the other hand, demand for wild-caught specimens puts pressure on wild populations. Fortunately, because Hercules beetles breed relatively well in captivity, most of the commercially available beetles today are captivity bred.